Hey, what's up? We should be live. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're gonna do critiques of your paintings. This one's gonna be number 5, right? We're gonna continue doing these. If you've sent me something and I still haven't critiqued it, it will come in the future, so don't worry. Now, I've got a special guest today. I'm gonna just scoot aside. First off, we have a sofa and we have Ruth here. I'm gonna annoy her for a second, so you... So she's here with us finally. It took her a few days to get used to this sofa and to feel like she's fine with being here with me. But there we are. This is like a, what do you call it, like a beanbag type of sofa. It was the only thing that really fit here well because it's a really crammed space and it's very lightweight, so you can move it around very easily, and it's much more just easy to maneuver here if I need to do something. In fact, I think I can pull it this way for a second. And then you'll get an even better look, because that's the original placement for it. So hopefully you'll be able to see Ruth. She's a part of this live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Let's use here. Amelia says, "Oh my God, so excited! You should be. I have your paintings." Lonel, hello. David, how are you doing? B Parsons, yeah, I have yours too. Thank you so much from North Carolina. Hey, Hans Art. Hey, Kevin. How are you doing? I think your paintings are here too. Hey, Lisa. Hope you're doing well from Boise, Idaho. Lollipop. What does critique mean? Oh, it means that people send me paintings and then I give my thoughts and help you improve, hopefully. And I'm gonna do some edits on them so that you can see what I'm talking about more easily. Jill, how are you? Hank, how are you doing? Yes, you made it. Happy to have you here. Stefania, hey. Christina, how are you doing? Sophia, how are you? From Italy, Stefania. Cool. Erica, how are you doing? Good morning. Also from Ohio, Zanesville. Zara, how are you? Spidey, hey, you remember me? Yeah, of course I remember you. Sophia, Hillel, how are you? Thank you so much for watching the videos. Becky, hi, I love your teaching style. Thank you so much. So we'll get into it, I think. So let me switch over here. So I'm going to have all of your paintings. Now, I will say I'm a bit tired for this week, and we have a lot. So I'll do my best to go over. Some people have sent multiple paintings. So I'm going to try and kind of find my pace and rhythm, and we'll just see how it goes. Because I have a feeling at some point I'm just gonna burn out, and then worst case we'll continue with the next time we do this. And there will be more, so don't worry. I know you can't see Ruth in this view, but sometimes I'll switch over and then you'll be able to see her. So yeah, hey, P-Fox or Pie-Fox, Urban Man Cry, let the roast begin. UV Animatics and Sketches, hey, from India. Patty, how are you doing? First time watching you live, thank you so much. Holly, greetings from Las Vegas, thank you for being here. And I have to say thank you, everyone, because the channel and the videos have been getting a lot of views. Amelia, I know it's yours, but I'm gonna go back to Adam, we're gonna go alphabetically. The channel's been getting so many views, and it's just amazing. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. On Instagram too, I don't know if you noticed, I basically doubled my following in a couple of days from 60k to 120, which was insane. Do you happen to Erica, do you happen to have mine that I sent 2 weeks ago? Yes, I do have it, don't worry, I think I have yours. Hey, Carme. Hey, everyone. Yes, okay, we'll get to yours in a second, Amelia. So first we have Adam. Now, Adam B, I don't remember if I saw you here. You sent me some awesome paintings, and I believe you mentioned that you're just kind of getting started with watercolor. You made a switch from oils, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not going to remember everyone's emails, but I remember you said that. You said you like a particular artist's style that I wasn't familiar with, by the way. I kind of discovered them, and they're really good. So this is actually my favorite, which is nice that we start with. I have zero critiques for this one. It's just so good and very flowy, and I can tell that you're making good use of watercolors fundamentals. There's flow and you know, I love colors. I love when everything is colorful I absolutely love it. So I'm biased towards this painting. Now, I'm not sure, you said, if I'm not mistaken, it's a study, right? So I don't know. You didn't send me the reference photos, so sorry about that. I don't have them. But yeah. So this one I like. Now, you did mention, I believe, again, about oils, and I do see some of that in your paintings. So making the switch from oils, it seems to me like you're still working a bit with some of these in a more like more separation between the shapes. And by the way, I love this. So this is very, if you look at this example, it's some of it are very thin glazes that you do one over the other. You can really see their shapes, and I quite like it. I think it's an interesting stylistic choice. I like how it looks. It can definitely be polished with time. It will improve and grow. But I do like how at some parts you do allow the paint to merge together. If I were to say like something to do and to challenge yourself, try and go even more watercolor, like even more flow, just to test it out, right? Because I think watercolor has a lot to offer, and I personally love to try everything and then kind of decide to narrow my focus maybe on a couple of techniques for a while, right? So that's my thoughts on this one. We have this is a cool one. I like that a lot. Your people are missing a bit in height, but other than that, I really, really like this one. Very interesting. I can almost tell you're coming from oils. And again, if I confused you with someone else, I don't believe I have. But if I have, my apologies. But I can tell it. But I can see the hints of not the hints, like the beginning of a watercolor kind of blossoming. So great job, actually. I love the colors too. I can tell you have an eye for colors. So yeah. And the last one, again, you can see some of these areas could just be simplified to just more flow, more wet in wet, as opposed to drawing the actual details. That's kind of where I would take this. I love your colors, I love your technique, and you seem to be very deliberate, right? Because the background you got very flowy and very nice. So great job. I would try doubling down on two things. First, try and see if you can challenge yourself to go even looser in the main focal point. So the fish in this case, and then let me give you a surprising kind of thing. Double down on the fact that you're transitioning from oil and see how far you can take this glazes style with multiple layers of painting the actual details. Because I love that. That can be a very unique part of your approach as well if done correctly and in an interesting way, right? So that's what I have for you. And now it is your turn, Amelia. I'm going to close. I'm going to go over every person's paintings, and then we're going to close all of them because I may want to jump back to a previous one. So before I do that. So yeah, I don't have your references too, Amelia, but hopefully I will be able to do some critiques. Let's just see a couple of comments that I might have missed. Hey, Mark, what's up, Liron? Erev Tov. Thank you. That's cool. Mark dialing in from Madrid. I need a boost of inspiration, so this live might just do it. Yes, hopefully it will. Hey, Urban says it's arty, indeed. Jade, how are you doing? And thank you so much, Mark, for encouraging everyone to leave a like. If you can, leave a like. Hey, Liron, it's easy to go from acrylics to watercolor. I think it's kind of similar whenever you transition, Amelia, from one medium to another. It's pretty much the same challenges because it's a different perception, a different mindset. So I wouldn't even say it's that different from, let's say, transitioning from oils, right? Now, if you've done watercolor and you've tried gouache, yes, there are some more similarities, but honestly, even acrylics could be watered down, so there are quite a few similarities there as well. So I think more similarities than differences. Where I would find a bigger difference is from pen or pencil to paint, because that's like a whole new world. Tofi, hey, hope you're doing well. Richard, how are you? David, thank you for being here. Maybe I've already said your name. So yeah, Amelia. So I don't have references. I don't have something to compare to, but I will say these look digital, right? Of course, digital work, which I really like, actually. So the three of these, I actually have a favorite, which has to be this one, because it's so painterly, right? It's the type of thing I would paint, and it actually reminds me of Tel Aviv, where I lived for a long time, with these balconies and these buildings. So I absolutely love it. I actually like the rawness of this one, as opposed to maybe more of the polish of the earth, which is understandable, because when you do this kind of a big, huge scale thing with all of these effects, it tends to look a little more not finalized. Like I'm not. What would be the word for that? Not edited to and not polished. It's a different thing, but I like that rawness. That feels like paint on paper, which is my favorite. Now, one more thing I want to commend you on is how you got these subtle, kind of relatively cooler values in there, right? This looks almost like a blue, which is very, very smart. If anything, I would double down on that and try and push it more towards the blue. So get something like this in there. I'm just throwing suggestions at you, of course, feel free to do what you want, but I think it'll give it a lot more dimension. I'm also not sure, like, in terms of, again, how you interpreted the reference photos, so doing my best to kind of figure out where things are, but I love this painterly look. I love this as well. One thing you want to think about is how do you relay the entire piece together and you tie it in together? Because for me, one thing that's a little missing, for example, in this one is the connection with the background. Now, the shapes are good. Your shapes are good. It's a very clear separation. If anything, you could even blend it in some spots like you did here. And, digital technique is tough. Like, I'm demonstrating right now digitally, and I know it's hard. So, if anything, you could even blend some more areas like this one. Here's what I'll say, 2 things. So first off, again, tying the background with the foreground, see if you can find a way to have them better communicate. So for example, you have some of the green here, which is great, but something in how the blue and green relate, and I actually am not sure exactly why. Something in how they relate to is that an owl or a different, I keep forgetting the specific names of different breeds. Something in how they communicate is a bit jarring, aka a big difference there. It could be a challenge to bridge. So something about the colors, maybe it's how saturated the green is, maybe muting it down just a little will put it in a better context. I'm not sure. We could try to do that. Let me think for a second. Like if I just go, you see, just a bit, like a touch more muted, and that way I think it communicates better. But what I will say is your shapes are on point. They're very clear. Oh yeah, and the second suggestion I wanted to give you. The way you do your brush marks, it almost feels to me like a coloring book, but in a way of, it's a bunch of marks. And they're almost not random, but just continuous. I would challenge you to see if you can get away with, if you want to vary it a little. Let's take this orange here, right? So if I'm going to grab a brush that is a little wider, can you get away with having this? Let's do not dry gouache. No. Let's do even oil paint. Can you get away with a bigger mark? Like varying the size of marks that you do. Because right now it's a lot of them and they're all kind of small. Like you painted this and then you matched a different color and you painted that and you matched another color. See if you can vary the sizes of your brush marks. Make them more painterly even. Just get a big mark there. Don't be scared to have a lot of different dimensions of brush marks. Right? So that would be the main thing for you. Other than that, the earth is very digital looking, so I just don't know if I have any good technique or feedback like that, because I'm not a master of digital yet. One thing that bugs me a little is how sharp this transition from light to dark is, but then how smooth everything on the surface is. So it almost makes me want some of these parts on the earth to be a little sharper, so that it makes sense that this contrast, and I don't know if it makes sense technically or realistically, that's how I feel. Artistically, maybe some parts of the earth can be a little sharper and crispier and less blurred, right? I hope that makes sense. It's just not my specialty, digital, so I'm trying to give it the best. This is why the building one was the easiest for me to relate, because it's a familiar subject and the technique looks a little more painterly. But yeah, let's use in the house and then we'll move on to the couple of next paintings. Vagabond, hey, how are you? Emma L. T-Man, hopefully. I wish I was brave enough to submit, but my style is way more amateur than a lot of these. Yeah, and amateur is not really a style. it's more of a skill level maybe, but that's actually the point. Like, I would love for people of all skill levels to submit, so feel free to. Just saying. Tofi, so fun to see you live. I was just watching like 5 of your videos just prior. Thank you so much. About to go paint a flower garden in watercolor. That's cool. Hope it goes well. Yep. Wishing you good luck with that. Richard, I have no paintings to send through, but I would like your opinion on something around. Yeah, I believe you sent me a voice message, right? I'll listen to it later. Sorry about that. Luca, hey. Judith, good morning. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I've always had tons of trouble with relating the background with the main focus. Yeah, so one way of tying it is you have a couple of ways: shape, value, temperature, and so on. Color, right? So in this example, it was the saturation of the color. If you have a big contrast, all you have to do really is find ways to gap it. So if it's a contrast in value and in color and in hue and in saturation, you just find something to bridge the gap and you make it less jarring. That's pretty much it. It could be, again, either the color itself, it could be the level of saturation, you know, how bright it is, the temperature, a lot of different ways of doing that to make it relate more to one another. It's a bit of a higher level concept, actually. So don't feel bad if it's still tough. The marking of someone who's making progress is like little sections of the painting are working, right? It's small sections that begin to work, and with time, not only do small sections work separate, but also they work together. I like how we're getting a bit more kind of higher, I guess, higher level concepts the more we do these. So next up, I'm gonna open up Bahir and Elizabeth. Let's start with Bahir again. I'm doing just alphabetically the way my computer sorted it. Are you still accepting more submissions? For today, no. Some people emailed me just before the live stream, so I didn't even have time to include those. But send them over and I'll do them next time, or, you know, in a couple of weeks. So definitely feel free to send them over. Hey Nancy, how are you? Happy you enjoy these. And I should do a painting masters video soon. So many people have been asking and I have some good ideas. Liron, could you talk later about your glove, please? Is it for wrist support or just comfort? It's just for the digital, so that when my hand is on the monitor, I won't leave, disconnected it. I won't leave, you know, oily hand stains. That's the only purpose, really. I put a glove for a while in the past just to test out whether something was an allergy or not, but luckily it wasn't, and we're good. Let me get a bit of a stronger thing here. Maybe a pen. Just a good old G pen. Okay, so we have Bahir's painting, which is awesome. So I have to commend you for a bunch of stuff here. The thing works together really well. And this is actually a great example, Amelia, and many others. Like, here's an example of tying it together in a way that works. And again, a lot of it is subjective, right? This could be just my opinion, but notice how all the colors throughout this painting, and it will be a motif, like, you're not the only one, trust me. A lot of people have problems relating different parts of the paintings. To be honest with you, I had these problems up until 2-3 years ago, like 4 years into watercolor. Still, I was having a lot of issues, and I still have them from time to time, relating different parts of the painting. Only in the last 2 years or so, I feel like I'm really starting to get it. So this is a great example of everything relating. The colors are very kind of familiar to one another, and I love this, but there is enough variation, so it's very interesting. The values are on point, and just generally speaking, it's quite accurate, I think, to the reference, right? So if we zoom out a bit, and it's something fun, I like doing that, they're quite similar. There are some small things that could be improved that I notice. By the way, also to the point of relating everything together, one thing that I think could have been done better is in terms of the overall composition, and that is the sense of depth. So what do I mean by that? You'll notice you have a very clear foreground, middle ground, and background, right? So one thing you can think about is, how do I lead the viewer through a really good experience that carries their eye through the painting and makes the depth element even stronger? So what do I mean by that? make some kind of a difference between the different layers. So let's say you want this to be your focal point, which actually, you know, I may take that back. It looks like this is the focal point. So, and this does have more detail than the background. So to some extent, I think you did a really fine job with that. Let's say you do want to have this, seem a little closer. So what I would do is actually make the details here a little clearer, make the colors a little more vibrant. So you have quite a strong green here if you sample the right area, like here, see? I was able to get quite far there. So you can intersperse this kind of a stronger green, and notice how it just brings it more towards us, right? It's more in the lights, to be honest. So it's like a light, and then there's a bit of a darker section there, you know. But there are some strong colors there that, just to make it look more like the foreground, you could play with that, right? Make this feel a little more detailed and close, then leave this the same, it's perfect, and then have even fewer details in this area. Just a suggestion. Or not fewer details, but push the blues more. Okay, so if you look at the reference, there are quite a lot of these greenish blues back here, and you were almost so devoted to getting the color family to feel together, which is great. It's actually amazing that you might have missed a few opportunities to include these types of more. So let's say right now we're on the kind of yellowy orangey scale. If we just switch over to the green blue, right, mute it down a bit, you can get some really nice variation there and make this look even more like a background by making it a little grayer and a little bluer, right? Because background tends to be a little blue. Like this section in particular, it's very light, but it's also quite blue. So you could really, like, look at this, right? Here it doesn't look blue, but here it really does, because most of your painting is quite warm. So these are, again, higher level concepts of how do I get the entire painting to not necessarily work, because it already works. So I wouldn't say this doesn't work, here's how to get it to work. But it's more variables to play with, more richness to add to the viewer's eye. So one of these opportunities was this kind of a, not this, but rather more of this kind of a almost bluish. I would actually push it more towards kind of here even. More of a, no, more muted. I don't like that. Even more gray, I would say. Because it's warm, everything is kind of warm enough that you can get away with just a gray almost. And that would really give another dimension, right? The dimension maybe of more temperature differences. Other than that, like, I'm really nitpicking because it's a great piece of art. A couple of other things I noticed, especially if we zoom out, so you'll notice maybe that this area could be a little stronger, like a little darker. I can sample the same color and just go for maybe a bit of a stronger one. And it will just put it more in its place. I actually really like what you did here with the background. So again, the way you interpreted this scene is beautiful. I absolutely love it. I'm giving you a few more variables to work with. Same goes for this roof. Like, look at this. This is really interesting. So we have this reddish feeling, reddish feeling area around here, right? So we're playing in the reds. And then we have this more purpley kind of gray, right? So that's another great opportunity. You don't have to use these things, but if you were to even preserve your values and just go like a bit of a red, and then around here you push it more towards the muted purple and make it a little darker. Like, look at what a nice little play of colors it does, in case you want to turn this into the focal point, right? You don't have to. I'm throwing it out there. Great, great piece of art. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say, talking about composition and leading people into your painting. Pay attention to verticals and horizontals, right? So it seems to me like you took this very beautiful, curvy, kind of almost horizontal curve, you flattened it a bit. So these are the types of things that actually really help the eye travel. So make sure you don't miss out on these opportunities. Because here you have this nice little, see, kind of pattern, right? And here, it gets a little stuck around here. You got a lot of it down really nicely. But yeah, this is pretty much it for this. Bahir, great, great job. I didn't notice if you're here. Hopefully you are. Hey Varun, no worries about the Earth. If you did the Earth from memory, that's pretty insane, Amelia. Um, let's see what else. Hippopotamus, nice to see something other than the endless series of swatching videos. Yeah, I haven't done swatching in years, I think. It's just not interesting. Luca, Liron, have you painted in oils? Not yet. I did try out a bit of acrylics, loved it. I have a few acrylics here around the house that I like, that I painted. Austin, hey, how are you doing? Jod, hope you're doing well too. Base DVA, hey Liron, it's Brenda from South Carolina. Or South California. I guess it's South Carolina, USA. Watch you daily and have learned so much. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Tofi, I have one more question. Please, where do you usually get your photo references? Oh, hey, Bahir, you're here. Awesome. I hope you enjoyed this one and it was useful to you. Where do you get your photo references? I take most of my pictures, but I also use Pixabay. Pixabay. Great website for royalty-free stuff you can use in theory. Also for commercial purposes, you can sell what you paint based on that. That's what they state on the website. You have to read the small letters, etc., etc. But yeah, Bayer, thank you so much for the submission. Let's move on to Elizabeth. So I know you're here, Elizabeth. I hope you're doing super well. So we have a bunch of animals and then some still life. Beautiful work. So I'll actually commend you first for really getting the light is great by here. The values are almost there. I just mentioned like a small correction where you can make it a little darker. If you zoom out, you can really see it. Sorry, I'll just for a second open it up again just to make sure you can see. I didn't want to really nitpick because it was such a great piece of art, but if you actually want to just improve the light a bit, the light is great in my opinion, but you could go with like sorry for cutting in the middle, but you could go for a bit more dark here, a bit more dark in this section and on the shadow of the house, and you're pretty much golden. But I wouldn't push it too much because I think you did a good job with all the rest of the variables. So just a few touches here and there and you're good. Turn both black and white and look at them side by side. It will really organize it for you. So Elizabeth, I have to commend you for a few things. First off, challenging references in challenging light and shadow conditions. So great job. And it's animals. I love animals. So you can tell this one's very interesting. We'll get back to that in just a second. Same from the elephant. So the two cats especially, I left the names on purpose just because I think it's super cute. You named this one Hero. And you added this. So great job. I actually think you captured it quite well. Now, sometimes it's hard to tell if it's the photo quality and the lighting conditions. I feel like the contrasts are actually on point. So I'm very hesitant to tell you to correct it, because if you look at the paper white isn't that white. So I think it has to do with that, but I feel like maybe in some spots you could push it. That's way too. You could push it to be a little lighter. You can see some areas are just a little more nuanced, lighter. Like you can really see this clear. It's not that clear, but you can really see it. Like this shadow here, kind of cast shadow to the side, and then it's a little more blended. Now you did get some of that here, but a part of painting is taking what's unclear and making it even clearer sometimes. Sometimes it's making it vague, sometimes it's making it clearer. So that's one thing I would challenge you to try and get. In terms of anatomy, it's interesting. So this seems to be the main body, and then this is kind of the hind legs. You kind of exaggerated the fact that this hind leg pops out a bit. So now we're going deep into anatomy, but I think it is important. So this, you see how big of a difference there is in their height in the apex. See? It's a little more exaggerated, so just to balance it out a little. It's very easy to make these small mistakes. With that, you got the light and shadow really well. So this is very realistic in the real sense of it. You matched the values and the shapes really well. So congrats on that. Like if I zoom out a bit, this almost looks like a photo that was taken with flash, right? With a strong flash in the camera. Like really good. One more thing I would challenge you to do is whenever you see a white shape, try and see if you can play with the nuances of temperature. I'm not seeing it here, but why not go to your orange, right? So you have this kind of an orange-brown, right? And then move it to the cool section and kind of try and see if you can play around with an equal level almost of value, but saturation that's a little different. So for example, your orange is a brown, it's quite muted, right? So if I take a blue, I can actually leave it quite saturated but light and just add my shadows that way. So something like this here. Look at how much depth it can give if you play around with these cools and warms, right? Again, this is something you don't have to do, but there's a lot of beautiful nuances there. Let me see what else could work here. Like a bunch of purples, maybe a little more muted could work in the shadows, right? I'm just throwing a few colors at you that you can use. So almost the same value you used, but push it more towards the, let's say, okay, this value, but push it more towards, see, the nuance, the bit of purple, bit of blue. There's a great artist whose name escapes me now, who does, like, it's the perfect example. So let me see if I can find it real quick. I always recommend this artist when it comes to animals and fur and nuance and color. Yeah, of course. So I didn't forget. I just didn't want to make a mistake. Marjorie Hicks. So if you look at Marjorie Hicks's animals, there are quite a few, but I'm looking for a specific one. Okay, yeah. So if you look at this dog here, I know it's a bit hard to see, but can you tell just how nuanced the blues are? Hopefully you can see this, blues and kind of purples and oranges. That's so nice. So it's one of those things you, at the face especially. So let me see. Look at the face. Look at the blue there. Wait, I'm gonna move it. There we go. Look at the blue. To me, that's like perfect. So you can add a lot of richness using that, right? Even if you don't see it, because you obviously are able to add things when you don't see them. Because you have, like you added this cute little wool row, whatever, you know, that cats tend to play with. You are clearly capable of adding things that are not there, so why not play around with these nuances, right? I hope that makes sense. So yeah, that's Hero. Okay, it's indeed Hero. That's super cool. So let's move on to actually the other cat here, Lucille, I guess, right? So this would be pretty much the opposite advice. So I feel like here you did manage to capture these colors. So these little, you know, blues here, this is really nice. So you really nailed that down. I would say the light and shadow here are even tougher, because here you have that big idea of Hero with white and brown and brown orange. Here it gets to a few more nuances, so it's very hard to capture. So I would say the values and even some of the balance and saturation could use a bit of work. But one thing that I really do appreciate is, look at this section here. Whenever you paint for everyone, I feel like you went a little heavy on the individual brush marks here, okay? But you balanced it out with this wet and wet, which is perfect. I love this. So great job. You can see how it all blended so beautifully, and this is the exact thing I encourage. So don't feel like you have to get each and every like dry brushy kind of mark to get the feeling of texture. You actually don't need much. All you need is a bit of an indication of a texture and you're good. So just throwing it out there, hopefully that helps. Now we have two more, so let's vary it up. So this one I love, and I would say here you managed to capture really well, again, realism. It's so funny. This one is, I would say in terms of like values, shapes, and all of it, it's like 90-85% accurate, which is crazy. Like that's the level of realism. So if we zoom out a bit, this still looks kind of like a photo. So way to go on that. I wonder if and let me know in the chat if you have any specific goals with these studies or just studies for the pureness of studies. Now, one more thing that is pretty amazing. So this you want to listen, everyone. Look at this texture, and that happens often with glass, that the surface is uneven, so you get these little wobbly shapes. You used the paper's texture to get that, which is a boss move. I love that. And it reads really well. Really well. Here, and here, and here. It's so awesome. Now, the one thing that could really improve it is make it more unique by not doing it in many places. Because what you have is the same kind of thing here with the table's texture. And again, it's fine if that's what you wanted to do. By the way, I love the bird you added. It's fine if that's what you want to do, but I feel like it takes away from this reading as the proper texture. Okay, so if I grab this entire area and just apply it, and it's gonna look a little awkward, but I just want to show you just on the level of principle. If I do filter, blur, which I like to do, Gaussian blur, and just get rid of some. Where's my menu? The menu likes to, oh, there we go. And just remove some of that, just to the extent that it'll make the, and I know it looks strange, but just to the extent that it'll make these marks look a little more powerful. Okay, so that's my point to you. It looks a little strange, yes, of course. But honestly, I could do the same with the mixing brush. So if I grab this round mixing brush, we'll just grab this kind of a, probably go a little lighter there, just not to, see, something like this. Just use this effect sparingly and you'll do really, really well. Because it reads so well here. And by the way, congrats on getting these dark highlights, because that's something that throws people off very often. They see this as a light thing and they exaggerate it way too much. But you actually got it pretty much the way it is. So way to go in these grapes. Really, really good job. Really good job. Same thing for the elephant. Like, hopefully you can tell because you painted it. Sometimes it's a challenge. This is really good. It's really accurate. So if I have to, this is beautiful. This is one of my favorites of yours. So if I have to distill my advice to you is think about how you can make an area more powerful and even build it more as a focal point by playing around a bit more with contrast. So it seems to me like you're using the same technique over the entire painting. So for example, back to this one, you could get this background to be even blurrier. And it's so cool because you got the values and colors really close, but just make it more wet and wet, right? Looser. And that will contrast with the bottles here that are sharper. Same for the elephant. So we have all of these small details and creases and everything. Why not lighten up a bit on the foliage? And I know it's hard, I know it's a challenge, but try and simplify them even more. I'm talking same level of simplification here, but do it here. Even though it's the foreground, just so that the elephant becomes even more like clear and prominent, because there's a bit of a mess when it comes to all of the details here, all of the details here, right? So just removing a few of these details from here will do wonders because it'll make the elephant really pop. I actually like that you reduced the contrast. You didn't get the leg and the ear as dark as they are. I feel like that works even better, so congrats on that. Especially in the ear. Maybe here you could go a little darker, but like, way to go. Really, really neat. Great job. Really great job. I hope that helps. Let me see if you wrote anything else. No. But yeah, great job. Really, really good. Let me know if you have any questions or follow up on that, and we'll try and get that down. Lisa, hey Liron, where do you sell your art? Gallery? I have a gallery online. It's just called Liron Gallery. Okay, my name and then the word gallery.com. You can see some of the paintings there. I don't upload everything there, and I don't offer everything for sale. So if you have a painting you're interested in that's not there, just ask me. Send a message, and I'll let you know if it's for sale. Most of them are obviously for sale, but some of them aren't, so you just have to ask. Hey Christine, how are you? Richard, Liron, just a quick question. Was scrolling YouTube and watched a Soloviev video. He only uses transparent watercolor. What do you think about that? Just a matter of personal preference. A lot of things can work with watercolor. It just depends more on the look you prefer. You know, some people like a very strong mix of the two, a very raw mix of the two. It reminds me of Ray Balkwill, who does a variety of mediums. So you get graphite and acrylic and gouache, just everything together. You could break that barrier to pretty much any extent, right? So same medium with different levels of transparency or opaqueness, different mediums, completely different mediums, just a matter of personal taste. The technique will maybe vary a bit, but again, the technique is just to serve the end result, and he has beautiful paintings, so I'm pretty sure it serves the end result. Hey Alessandro, how are you doing? I'm not sure if you sent me a painting right before the stream. I didn't get that, or we'll get it next time. B Animation says, lols. The glass on the egg picture is amazing indeed. Jackie, I think that the cat is amazing. So beautiful. I'd buy it. Awesome. Everyone loves the cats. Tofi loves the cats too. Sven, how are you? I still haven't gotten to your work, so it's good that you're... It's finally here. Sorry, I would have to work. I am a postman. Yeah, so I have your paintings here. So worst case, if you don't catch them live, come back later and I'll have them. Adam, hey Liron, thanks for reviewing my paintings today. I appreciate it. Yes, you had it correct. I'm an oil painter making a switch to watercolor. That portrait was my first watercolor portrait. Amazing, amazing work. Yeah, just take it one step at a time. You'll get to it. I do see that. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for submitting the paintings, and hopefully that makes sense. Hillel Shmuel, I'm going to translate for you. Yeah, so Hillel describes a very common issue that people have. So he says, what's the level of details that I think watercolor should have? And he's saying he's having a hard time letting go of the details and let water flow. So to answer your question, and אם אתה לא מבין מה שאני אומר, או שאתה רוצה, שלח לי הודעה ואני פשוט אגיד לך בעברית. אני יכול גם עכשיו. I can talk both Hebrew and English simultaneously. We'll do that, because Hillel says his English is so-so. So I'll try and do both English and Hebrew. So there is no like a should level of detail. It's more about what you like and your personal preferences. But I will say I do encourage people to try and let watercolor do its thing. I think it's best to be able to use that and then to take a few steps back and paint more like, smaller details, right? So I would like you ideally to be able to do both, right? Now, if you want to let go, a lot of it comes down to just playing with the paint, letting it do its thing. The frustration-free watercolor course that I have is exactly that. It's in English, but still, it's exactly that kind of a thing. So just letting the paint, just playing around with abstract painting on paper, just to test it out. If you do it on a piece of paper you're willing to give up, you will feel much more comfortable doing it. Okay, now I'm going to switch to Hebrew. And everyone's just, you talk among yourself, you won't understand a thing. אז בגדול, הלל, אין כאילו, מה שאמרתי זה שאין רמת פירוט ספציפית שהיא נכונה, זה ממש תלוי בטעם ומה שאתה מעדיף. אבל אני אוהב שאנשים מפתחים את היכולת. אז אני ממש ממליץ שתהיה מסוגל לעשות את זה, ומתי שבא לך להיות מאוד מפורט עם הפרטים, להיות מפורט עם הפרטים. העניין הוא שאתה אומר שאתה מתקשה. וזה משהו שכדאי לעבוד עליו. לפחות שתהיה את היכולת לעשות את זה. והצורה שבה אני ממליץ לעשות את זה, ממש לקחת סתם דף שאתה מוכן כאילו לזרוק ולוותר עליו, ופשוט להשתמש בו אבסטרקט כאילו לגמרי, לתת לצבע לעשות את מה שהוא רוצה, וכשאתה מוותר מראש על הנייר, אתה פשוט כאילו יודע מראש שלא יצא משהו יפה או לא משהו מדהים, ואז יש קצת יותר נוחות בלנסות ולתת לזה להתפרע. כשאתה עושה את זה על חתיכת נייר שהיא באופן מבודד לגמרי מציור שהוא, אתה מצפה שיהיה ציור גמור ויפה והכל, תתאמן על זה מספיק, ואז אתה תגלה שאתה עושה את זה באופן אוטומטי בציורים. ממש אוטומטי, זה פשוט מגיע עם הזמן. זה בגדול זה. אוקיי. So I hope that helps. מקווה שעזרתי. אם אתה צריך עוד עברות, פשוט דבר איתי. So yes, it was the same thing in Hebrew. Love the elephant details. Yes, indeed, it's beautiful. RK Fab Art. Hey, how are you doing? By your nice animal paintings, it's so hard for me to paint for. Yeah, it is a challenge, but it comes with time, like everything. Yeah, we'll do next time, Alessandro. Elizabeth, thank you so much, Liron. That's the only advice I've ever had. Cool. You're doing well. You keep going. You have the eye for realism. I can tell that, and your values are on point. You look at all these little folds and creases. You did such an awesome job with them. It's great. It's great. You even got the edges down. Very interesting way. So you have this. Just keep at it. You'll do well. Hey Shelly, how are you? Richard, thanks for answering, Liron. I've separated all my transparent paints and I'm going to have to go at using them just for play. Yeah, definitely. It may feel a little different. Maybe you find you prefer it, right? Maybe you like it better like this. Jacqueline, I wish I could speak Hebrew. Sounds so beautiful. Yeah, it's the most terrible language to learn. Trust me. After trying to study Japanese, it's not that Japanese is that easy, but Hebrew is similar to English in that there are so many exceptions to everything, and there are so many things, patterns and words that aren't really patterns. You have to learn on a case-by-case basis. Oh, this is spelled exactly the same but reads completely differently. Kind of like with, yeah, it happens a lot with English. I don't know if I have a good example. But yeah, that's just how it happens. Richard, I love my M. Graham yellow ochre too much to drop all my semi-transparent. Oh, I love M. Graham's yellow ochre. It's the best yellow ochre I've ever used, ever. M. Graham, if you're looking to sponsor someone, I'm here. Let me know. Your yellow ochre is the best I've used. It's not grainy. It re-wets very easily. It looks good. It mixes well with French ultramarine. It mixes well with everything. It's not too opaque. It's not too transparent. It's just perfect. So yeah, I'm here for you. So let's move on to the next artist. Let me close everything. It's better if I use the mouse for that. So let's see who's up next. Elizabeth. Good. So we have Erica H, who sent one painting and one reference photo. Great. So I'm on the wrong screen. There we go. So Erica, great job. I really like that. One thing that I don't talk about enough that I think would really help you is clarity in light and shadow. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. If you look at this mountaintop, it's not a high contrast between the light and dark. Like, this is the light, this is the dark. It's very close, but of course the dark is a little darker. Now, if you pay attention to the shapes, you'll notice that there is a very clear shadowy shape and a very clear light shape. And this is what's called shadow mapping. It's when you really clearly define in your brain or on paper where the light is and where the shadow is. And the principle says that the lightest area within the shadow should still be dark than the darkest area in the light. So this is a very low contrast, but it's still a difference in the light and shadow. There's quite a difference, especially from the lightest to the darkest. So, and your shadows are a little confused in that regard. There isn't enough of that separation. If I turn this black and white, I think it'll be more visible. Let's give it a try. I keep forgetting how to do that, but we'll figure it out. Oh yeah, it's here. So not color, but rather gray, right? So look at the relative clarity here, and here it's a little more confused. So that's something. So for example, you took this part and included it in the light where it's actually a part of the shadow, funny enough. Now, I know it's a similar value, but it's still a little darker. And you have some room for interpretation when it comes to light and shadow, of course. So that's something to know. The one thing that throws it off is how you did go a little darker on these strong contrasts. You interpreted them much darker. Now, this isn't actually that bad of a mistake. It's just a principle that I see people have an issue with all the time. Just this fact that there is light and shadow and try and get the clarity between them. It's also an issue in the rest of the painting. So what do I mean by that? The trees, right? Again, let's go back to gray. So the trees here are way more cohesive together and dark, right? And that's something you've missed. So if I just grab like a, let me do this so I'm not all over the place. I'm just gonna get, yeah, this kind of a value is good. I'm just gonna grab a brush, this kind of a saturation. So, and I'm just gonna do a bit of shadow. You can call it mapping, but I'm just really capturing the shadows. Funny enough, the reflection here is a little stronger, so that's interesting. This is actually great. You got these really nicely. And then this here should be just a little bit, a touch darker. Just a bit. And then if we organize the mountains, I can just sample it. If we organize a bit of the mountains light and shadow, and you see how just slowly it becomes a little clearer where the light and shadow is. Now, of course, I'm doing it in black and white, but just as a general kind of concept, it's very easy to see these trees and think that they're very light, or even see nuance where there isn't. So for example, you look at these and you think, okay, yeah, some parts are lighter and some parts are darker, and you are correct, but it's more like the trees are more of a one single unit. It's more of this shape as opposed to this one shape and then this two shape, which is how you interpret it here, right? So a part of improving and growing and learning is knowing what to exaggerate, what to separate, what to keep together to have a more effective, maybe, impression. What I will say about your colors is they're very much on point, like they're accurate. You may have gone a little too saturated, right, some areas, but you actually match them quite closely. And I can see this in the mountain, like the purples and the yellows are really on point. So you're actually very close to being there. Even the water, like you got the value down quite close. I'm not sure like how perfect it is. That's really close. You see, this nice transition, almost the same, right? You even got the lower section a little darker, which makes the water, gives it some depth, right? So two things to pay attention to: shadows, right? And how you group them together to make clearer shapes. And then I would say saturation, because you really got most of it like much stronger than it is here. And I'm fine with exaggerating, but it looks like, so it's almost as if I would grab this photo on the bottom and go, I don't know how to do that here, funny enough. Maybe filter, or maybe corrections, you know, corrections, no. We'll figure it out. Layer. I just want to play around with the saturation. I just don't know how. Edit. I keep forgetting. I think I knew this. But in any case, it's almost like opening it in every app and increasing the saturation to a level that's a little exaggerated. That's it. And one thing you'll notice is how much this yellow pops because it's surrounded by pretty much everything is gray, especially here down below, right? And with yours, your version, it doesn't pump as much because everything else is so strong anyway. So just a few things to throw at you. Hope that makes sense. Don't feel like you have to paint each and every tree. Feel free to unify them into, so let's choose like a dark muted. Feel free to just do this, just to try it out, right? I will never tell you don't paint detailed because it depends on your taste. But what I will say is experiment with edges. So get the edges to convey that it's a tree, but have the shape just one big unified shape. See how that works, right? Just a few suggestions to throw at you. Great job. Let's see some comments. Did I miss anything important? We'll get to more in a second. Let's do one more. Then we'll do some more comments. So next up we have Kevin. Kevin, I believe I saw you here, right? So Kevin, this is actually interesting. This is really interesting because you have the exact same things I've had, like to the T. This is exactly all the ways I would interpret different scenes in the past. So, and I want to say this is all the mistakes I used to make, but some of it is not mistakes. It's just a matter of how you interpret the scene. So, you seem to have a tendency, just like I have, to push the darks to be very dark. Look at this here, right? Look at where it falls here on the values down below. So let's say this is white. We're up here. This is almost black down here. And look at where this falls in the middle. And look at how you've interpreted it just black, you know? And that's something to pay attention to. If you're trying to get the values to be accurate, it is something to be very cognizant of, okay? So don't jump into turning your darks into black. There's a lot of nuance before that black value, okay? That's just flat out, that's the easiest advice I can give you. And again, if you like doing things one way, do it that way, right? I don't want to force you to do things differently. But it seems like you're missing a bit of the nuances in the values. Let me give you another example. If you look at this really beautiful kind of fence here, right? This area, you'll notice how there's actually a nice little nuance of a mid value, once again, kind of purpley blue. And all you have is the black and white. So it's something to be aware of. So if I make this a little smaller, and I allow, let's see where the light was, probably on the lower left. Okay, not lower, rather left side, just left. So you'll get something like this here. I got this side wrong. Like this is the shadow, right? And this nuance, it just can look so good. See how it balances things out? Now, so that's in terms of values. Now, in terms of colors, you may be limiting yourself to just a few colors that you're using. Maybe you even need to change a palette because this looks like a different blue altogether. But, you know, you don't have to match the colors accurately. But the way you play around with saturations could use some work. So, for example, to me, it looks like the sky is a blue, but still quite muted. And then everything else is also quite muted. Again, that's okay. Maybe if the values were more on point, you'd be able to, I don't want to say get away with it, but have it look a little more interesting in a way. I'm missing a bit of color, just a bit of color. It could be selectively, like just the sky, just the greens, right? Just the rooftop even. I'm missing just a bit of color. It could be even, the color could be here in the form of this nice little blue, you know, that's in the mid values. So the mid values are kind of invisible to you, which they were for me as well. So that's something to work on. Now, there is a word to be said about, again, the contrast. So, for example, look at how strong the sky is here and how beautiful it contrasts with the white of the windmill. So whenever I see a shining white, I know I have to surround it with a strong color. So I know that this blue is quite strong, right? And if you look at, like, if we turn this black and white just for a second, it's not black, but it's a mid to dark range, right? So it's somewhere, let's say, this is a mid. You can see it's in the middle. Right? It's a mid to dark. It goes a little darker, right? So it's something to be aware of. It's a lot of how your values and colors play together that requires some work, okay? The one thing, if you take one thing from it, because this is quite complex, and I know because I've had this exact same thing, is just try and see the mid values. Try and see those mid, there's a richness in the value scale from white to the middle is what often most people see, but then from the middle to the dark, there's a lot of variation there that you can capture that'll be really nice looking. So again, if this is white and this is black, this is in the middle, look at how much there is still before. And let's complete this too. Before it's fully black, there's quite a bit going on there. And that's the range you're missing out on. So I want you to work on that. There is some compositional stuff, like I would move this a little to the side, it blocks some views. But yeah, that's extra. I wouldn't worry about that too much. I do want to commend you for getting a bit of looser details in there. So this looks a bit like wet and wet. I don't know if it is, if it's the way the photo was taken, but congrats on not turning these tons of details into like a really detailed part, because it's the edge of the painting. I don't want necessarily... am I still in black and white mode? Oh, sorry. I don't want necessarily tons of details down here. So you actually did that really, really nicely. Okay? So if there was one thing you take from this, it's this part of the value scale, you'll be golden. I had the exact... Like, if I were to paint this scene 6 years ago or 7 years ago, that's what I would do. I recognized it immediately, which is so funny. So yeah, that's what I would work on. Let's see who is in the... Let's actually just open up a bunch more. So we have Luca next. 1, 2, 3. Now, for people who submitted multiples, I just want to be respectful and actually finish through everything. Let's see if we're halfway. We're halfway. Yeah, we're halfway there. We'll make it, I swear. So we'll go faster the more paintings you submitted, basically. So my apologies. But before that, the chat. So let's see. Tofi, Liron, do you use Rembrandt paints? I just picked up a Payne's Gray by this brand. Curious to hear. Yeah, so it's one of the pretty much only brands I haven't yet tried out. So no, unfortunately, I don't have too much to say. I haven't used them before. P or Pi. Before I color work done, I photograph it. Play with it. Here's Ruth. Let's switch to a full screen. Stretching. Easy to... Yes, find your spot. Find your spot. No, we can stay here for a while. Where was it? Before I call work done, I photograph it, play with it on my phone, and can see where I need to tweak it. Yeah, I always do that too. Especially for the values. That's super useful. Sometimes for the colors as well. Beautiful reflections. Yes, people enjoy the paintings. Like, way to go for everyone who submitted. Great job. Felix, you can speak Portuguese? No, I can't. That was really hard for me. All of South America and in different countries speaking Spanish, and then in Brazil, Portuguese was super tough for me. I couldn't manage. Alex, I would swap the green with orange and blend the wing to the background. Erica, thanks, Liron. Yeah, you got it. Jacqueline, painting from photos can be hard, especially if the contrast isn't that great. Yeah, that's true as well. That blue sky is something I've tried to paint. It's so hard that I just add clouds. Yeah, that too. So sometimes the issue may be like just dealing with a big wash for the sky. If that's your issue, then it's all the best practices of mixing a lot of paint in advance, a lot of water, a lot of paint, and worst case you do it in glazes, but just be prepared to tackle a large wash. Any tips? So hopefully that helps. Pat, I'm happy to hear this is helpful. Kevin, thanks. I used the posterize feature to try and get the contrast rather than match too many values. Oh, I see. So it may be in the interpretation of the posterize, right? Maybe you interpreted in 2 values. Maybe you should have used 3 or 4. It would give you more of that middle range. That could be it, actually. So it's interesting. So maybe you're at a better spot than I was. Yeah, Ruth. Pat, should we be concerned about sending you our paintings with the reference photo when the reference photo is not ours? Not really. I don't think so. I don't think it's a problem. This thing is, I'm not putting ads on these videos, so it's not really, I'm not monetizing. So I wouldn't worry too much. It's best if the photo is royalty free, but but it's good to send me one because this painting doesn't have one. Oh, sorry, you don't see. Let me switch back. There we go. This does not have a reference photo. The first 2 do. So it's a very interesting scene here, and I actually love the original in that it's very different from what I usually see. It's a bit of has an older feel to it when it comes to the style. The crowd of people is really, really nice, and the cliff, very confusing too, because it's just a confusing scene, right? It's not anyone's fault. It's a very interesting kind of composition, so I actually really like it. So I would say something interesting. The original one doesn't look like it was painted with watercolor. It could be, but to me it doesn't look like that. It looks more like acrylics, oils. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's gouache. Maybe it's something else I'm not recognizing. But it feels to me like you preserved the more not opaque, but the brush mark aspect of it. So a lot of your brush marks are visible. That's totally okay. But something you can play with is getting these shapes to flow more. So for example, when I look at this entire thing here, I would do it more like an orange kind of wash, and while it's wet, I may charge a bit of red, a bit of blue to get the nuances. But it would, and maybe you've tried doing that, right? But for some of these, I do see a lot of the kind of brush marks. So maybe wet and kind of improving that technique is a good route to go. Again, you don't have to. It really depends on. There's a message that awaits held for a review, but I'm gonna allow it. Thorin says, what psychopath wants to hear criticism in front of a live studio audience? People who want to improve. So yeah, it's a pretty good space to do that. So don't people shouldn't be worried. You're not a psychopath if you submit. It can be scary, and I really commend people's courage. But we're not roasting anyone here. So yeah, just the aspect of wet and wet. Colors are pretty good, pretty on point. Again, same concept for these areas for the wet and wet. It's a very kind of, it's interesting. It's a very, to me, it reads as a very English kind of style of landscape where you can see a lot of these like small brush marks, and I love it. I do think maybe working on being able to do it more smoothly just as a skill is important, because I feel like maybe you could improve that. A couple of color notes, okay? So notice something interesting here in terms of the colors you used. Again, a lot of it is style choice, but so you got a very strong red here and here, probably one of the most saturated colors, as well as this green in this entire painting. Now, the thing I see with that as a problem maybe is that this is quite to the side. Nothing wrong with that, but I would actually look for more details here in the crowd. So, like, look at what I'm doing. I'm just adding a few of these, things here, just for fun. That's where I want to see some more of the details. I actually see some of them here, some nuances. It's all muted pretty much, but yeah. Talking of muted, I don't know if it's just my feeling, but this feels a little, it's a little too saturated for me. So these trees here are at the far back. Look at this. This is what I talk about, like nuance. This is almost a gray, like even a warm gray. Look at this very muted kind of reds, oranges, greens. So much beauty in these. It's very easy to lose that. When you're matching colors from someone else's painting, it's very easy to miss some of that. The way I see it, and you actually got a nice range there. It's not like totally outer like the reds I added here. It actually looks great. Look, you were quite close. The green stands out a little bit too much. It looks a little artificial. Especially there, but you did a good job with the mixing, honestly. So the one thing I would say in that, so we had wet and wet. The next big one I would say is how you build a composition when it comes to saturation, and where you place the most saturated colors and where you place the more muted colors. Because here you placed a lot of muted, nice little blues, grays to the top, so that's great. And here this is a little closer, so that's maybe where most of the saturation is, maybe more towards the center and less towards the sides, right? So it's where you place the saturated colors. So that would be my the main thing for this one. But great job. Oh wait, I'm gonna leave it open for now. And then here we have another one. So look at this. Once again, this relates to my previous thing. When I see this kind of a strong blue, I love to make use of it. So I'm just going to make my life easy and simple. Like, look at how much, and it may be too dark for some. That's okay if you don't want it to be that dark, but sorry, that's terrible. Oh, look at how much you can get out of this beautiful contrast. See this? Look at how... And by the way, I was there, I think. That's, where is that? Is that Florence? I'm not sure. Not Florence. Where is that? Georgia? I feel like I've been there. I don't know. In any case, look at this. You let me know in a comment where this is. Look at how much more of a pop the tower gets right now. And let's go back. See how it was missing there? That's when I say when painting more literally, just like you see it. Oh, it's a dark blue. Okay, I'm going to use a dark blue. It's almost like a robot, but there are a lot of advantages to that, right? I want to separate it in a different layer to show you, again, the difference. And some people are worried that the contrasts with different areas will be hurt when you do it this way. So for example, this top here is not as contrasty. So very easy. You just lighten it up a bit. Lighten it up. You decide on, let's go even more yellow. You decide on the contrast. Or like this, maybe. You want to have a strong contrast, just go ahead and get it, you know? So you see the difference it makes? Was missing. That would be, I think, the biggest one. Georgia, yeah, Tbilisi. Yeah, I was there. That's a beautiful place. Yeah, that's a beautiful place. The rest, this is quite complex. I like how you unify the shadows. Compositionally speaking, and this, by the way, nice color matching on this section here. Very, very good. You missed an opportunity to play around with nice little sharp lines for light and shadow. Like this, and then look at how this shadow cuts through this lit area. So this, in essence, could be lit. And it just reads better as a floor. Can you tell how I just turned it into a floor? Into the ground? No ground? Yes, ground. Right? Maybe it's not as yellow and not as strong, so something like a little more muted. But it does read better as like, it anchors it, right? This shadow belongs to whatever. It makes a little more sense. So I hope that helps. Overall, great job. Tons of details here. You did a fine job with them. Same goes for the contrast here, by the way. This, look at how strong that is, right? And don't even go that strong. Maybe make it lighter, bluer, just to contrast with some of the other color. Like, look at how beautiful of a shadow that can be, right? Hope that makes sense. And for the last one, so for this one, maybe the reference photo wasn't sent, so I don't know exactly how to comment in terms of comparison, but I will say same tip for flow, right? Get the washes flowing. And second thing I would say, a bit of work on the drawing, right? And how accurate it is. And I can tell this with, there's a lot of vagueness with the shapes. So it looks like we're closer to this side of the building as opposed to this side. So what will usually happen is, instead of this going this way, it'll go a bit like that, right? Then this moves away from us. So it's almost like it's missing that structure, just a bit. So drawing is something you could improve. Notice how your lines are also not fully... No, they are quite parallel, even too parallel. We're looking up at this. Yeah, this drives me crazy. So all of these lines are very gently, ever so slightly moving away from us. So it should be more like this. See what I mean? You're missing that slant in the angle. And then this moves inside into the distance like that, maybe. Right? But basically practice doing a lot of boxes in perspective, and you will 100% get it. Okay? Great job. Let's look at the chat for a while. Tofi, going to finish watching the stream later. Thanks for all the answers. You got it. How to send? I have the email down below. You can see it right there. Down there. To send your work for critique, Liron at Lironian. Jacqueline, thanks for the tips on washes for sky. I'm going to try it out. Awesome. Luca originally was painted in oil according to the book. Oh, okay, I see. TB303, hello Liron, thanks for doing your thing. We just started Watercolor and saw your channel, super fun and great to become a part of your community. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Mayur, how dark is too dark? I have heard that many times watercolor paintings with darker colors do not get value in exhibitions and contests. Is this true? You know, I have very little respect. This is going to ruffle some feathers. I have very little respect to a lot of exhibitions and contests. Just because I feel like they place undue value on the wrong things. I am much more impressed by someone who's able to hone their craft in their own, house, just them, and they love the result they get and they paint the way they want, rather than to please some kind of an establishment. Call me a rebel. I'm just like that. I really couldn't care less. I keep seeing the politics behind a lot of exhibitions and contests, and it's just so sad. You clearly see how someone who's way more skilled should have won. Very often it's just the politics, who knows who. And fame, maybe some of my art is overappreciated because I'm more well-known in some different... among different groups of people, right? So it's a lot of things that shouldn't necessarily influence the result end up influencing it. So my answer to that is just, paint the way you love. I don't think it's about necessarily, though, like even just to address the question itself, I don't think necessarily the darker colors make it not receive value in exhibitions. I think it could be different things, other things that are still incorrect in my opinion, which is why I answer it this way. I wouldn't worry too much about values. So yeah. By the way, Luca, great work here. I love these colors. The peach and the orange and the blue. That's really nice. Your colors, I love them, by the way. Just generally speaking, you're using my kind of palette, like a lot of warm kind of yellows, kind of almost, New Gambogi type of yellows, very nice warm reds, more of a variety of greens, like really good job. Good job on the colors. Forgot to mention. I absolutely love them. I love the colors in this one too. This is probably one of my favorite color palettes. By the way, I'm curious to see if I were to turn this into a bit of a more blue, maybe a little more muted in here. Yes, that looks interesting. But in any case, yeah, no, I'm just playing around. Plumpy, good morning, y'all. That's a cool tower. Yep. Vagabond. Liron, do you think that learning digital painting can indirectly improve watercolor skills? Yes. It has improved my color matching skills. Maybe you noticed over the last year and a half, my color matching has improved. And my understanding of colors has improved. And I attribute a lot of it to digital. I don't know why. The fact that I can just go like this and match the color, and me doing it a bunch of times, something clicked, and I now am better at not only matching the color I see, but selecting colors that work well together. So definitely helped me a lot. And of course, the ease of doing it lets you or allows you to work on things maybe you don't get to work on when you paint traditionally, like composition, higher level concepts, because you're free from technique. You're free from mixing technique and mixing time, so you can go wild a bit and experiment with different things a little faster and easier. So definitely, yes. Plumpy, Liron got that Magnus Carlsen hair right now. Yeah, I don't know. It's so annoying when I take a shower, because I went to the gym. Then I took a shower. I wake up in the morning, it looks the best. It looks like nice, kind of tight here. And then the more the day goes by, it just turns to a flat kind of plane. I really dislike that. But yeah. Lisa, I totally agree with you on the pleasing judges. Yeah, definitely. Ali Moss, hello. Thank you for being here. Double star. How large is the original format for these? Yeah, I'd be curious to know. Luca, let us know. And with that, we'll move on to the next one. So let's see who we have up next. I'm going to have to pick up the pace, seriously. Okay, we have Michelle. Michelle has one painting, so we'll dive deeper on that. So yeah, one thing is when the context is taken, it's very hard sometimes to convey what you want. And because the context here is quite dark, right? These are all dark values in the background. It's a bit hard to convey. Now, I know some people don't like backgrounds, so that's okay if you just deliberately remove them. But then you'll have to use different means of expressing light and shadow, okay? So that's something to have in mind. Now, some core shapes and shadows, right? I do see some clear light and shadow. We're going to talk about that frowny face in a second. But I do see some clearer shapes of light and shadow, and I want you to pay attention, okay? So I'm going to grab this mid value and just go over, not mid, darker, because I wanted to show. You see, this is what I often like to do with white fur. There are some very clear shapes of shadow here. Now, you actually changed the angle, so I don't know, maybe you relied on a different photo. But let's say even this, just something like that. You see, there are some very clear shadows. Same here. Try and look at the shadows as one big shape as opposed to small areas. That's the same principle of shadow mapping, right? And it will create a much better impression. Same for above the eyes, I think. See, something like this. Now, when you're trying to go maybe too literal on the details, that's when you get these different frowny faces. So if you look at the eye, I'm going to try and kind of sketch it here. In terms of its shape, there's this kind of, it's just almost almond, right? And you don't really see the pupil, and it really merges with the shadow around it. So I want you to, and then see then the eyelash is very nice looking like this. So this is more of the shape we're talking about, right? And you give it this very human quality to it, of actually showing the eyelid or the pupil, sorry. So just be careful of that kind of a thing, and go with the same principle of shadow mapping. Have the clear pattern of shadows, and then have on top of that, I'll just move this here, make it a little smaller, like that. And on top of that, notice how you interpret shapes. It's very hard with black and white. It's a big, big challenge. And especially with photos that are a little blurry and a little, you know, the photo could be improved itself. And I mean, they're super cute, right? Not as a photo, but as a means for a painting. So that's the kind of thing I would want to see you try and do. Even with white fur, there's a very clear pattern of light and shadow. Like the entire front of the face, for example. Is dark, right? So you want to try and capture those kinds of nuances. See the mouth, right? Look at how dark it is. So try and think about the big shapes of shadows. And don't go too literal on the, you know, the eye as a almost human eye, right? Look at the shapes that you're actually seeing in the photo. Some ways to do this could be to turn it black and white, to posterize it. There's a bunch of ways of doing that, okay? So if we go gray here, you'll get to see a bit more of that, okay? So it's a tough one to paint. I would have a hard time with it too. So don't worry about it. Just keep going. Choose another one. If you love animals, keep going with that. One thing you did do that's really nice is you didn't overdo the fur pattern, so you don't have tons of these brush marks, which is great. Keep going that way. Let us move on to Rattlesnake. Also sent us one. This is really nice. So, same kind of a thing I would say with the shadows and just mapping them out. Now, it could be the photo quality, but the light and shadow, but I feel like it is that. I love the colors you use, just darker. Just darker, like make a separation between the light and the shadow. See, something like this, even. Just a little more saturated. And a little darker, even, looks like. See, just make the separation. Don't be scared to make the separation between light and shadow. You could even start here and go a bit more the orange-brown route and just map out those shadows, right? This area should be darker. I could also show you like the previous example. Let's choose a color, dark, and just get the shadows in. Don't be scared of dark yellows. A lot of people are scared of dark yellows. There's no reason to fear them. They're great. It's just a brown, okay? You can get all the nuances you want. You can do the same thing with more of a, you know, yellowy color. It'll look great, right? Maybe make it a little darker. Don't be scared to do that. Now, one more thing I will add to that. Use the background as a means to convey the light and shadow. Look at how beautiful. I would actually move it down to maybe here. Something like this. I don't know. That's fine too. Look at how nice the negative shape of it is. Like, it really makes the light pop. See how it turned into more of a painterly kind of a thing, right? Before, after. Okay? A few small things, like you got the shadows down in terms of location. You got them really well. You got the nice contrast here up top. It works. It works. There is a gradual transition from here to here, right? This is a little lighter and darker on a neutral kind of yellow-green, I guess, something like that. You could try and capture that. You don't have to. But just, you know, think painterly. Like, how can I make this painterly? Where are the contrasts? What defines my shape, right? These are all very useful things. But great job. I love that. You know, I love your colors. I love the drawings accurate, obviously. So great job. Great job. Keep at it. And, you know, you gotta love coffee. Is that what you call a macchinetta? I'm not sure, but I love that. So, yeah. Chat. Anything interesting? You got it, Luca. Flobby Bobby. Water painting critique ASMR. Yeah, we can do that. Jacqueline, I paint pet portraits, and white dogs and black dogs are very difficult. I like making bluish whites or yellow whites, depending on lighting. Yep, I love that too. Just getting some kind of a nuance of color there. It's just so fun. Next up, we have Steve M. Now, Steve, I don't remember if I saw you here, but a note. So Steve did these paintings based on different views of this village, but then he lost the original photos, so he, after a while, probably took new photos, right? I think that is correct. That's what you told me in the email. So this is why there is a big difference in, you know, the light and shadow and the different conditions there. But I will say one thing that I love about your work is you do see the large shapes. Like, you very clearly define it to me as the viewer. Like, look at the roof, look at this roof, look at this wall. It's fantastic. I love that. Let's see. I want to go over this like together. Is this snow and not snow? So this is why you exaggerate the colors, which I love. So let's break it down. One thing I think you could benefit from, arguably the most, is drawing and the accuracy. Okay, so you have a perspective here that's a little broken. So this is a time for a quick lesson in a perspective. So when you look at a reference photo, all of these small parallel lines will lead us to some kind of a vanishing point somewhere around here outside the painting. That's often what happens, right? So it's almost somewhere here. Now, you lost that. So if I connect this and this and this, and the road goes in a completely different direction, right? Now, even more than that is this side of the house is important. So this goes here, and this goes to a different vanishing point somewhere down there. Should fall on the same line as this vanishing point to the right. Now, you kind of lost it, and it's going too high, okay? This points to me somewhere up here where it should go like that. That would be the main thing here. And I do believe, like here it's better, but this should be a little flatter. Like this, just a bit. You got it right here. This is nice. This is really cool. So this photo exaggerated the perspective a bit, and I like that. See how... see how it's a bit exaggerated because it's probably in a wide angle up close, or wide angle. But that's cool. You got the drawing here pretty nice. This I wouldn't change too much. This is a bit hard, but because it's so far, there's a bit of perspective at play, not much. And of course, the pictures are a little different again because you took them later. Maybe the angles have changed since. Maybe you took it from a bit of a different angle, but that's the kind of thing I'm recognizing. Now, I do love the way you play around with the colors. One thing I would suggest is see how you can balance it out a little better. I feel like some of the colors selected break the harmony a bit, and a lot of saturated areas kind of confuse me as a viewer. So I would maybe choose a few elements to go more saturated on, just to have a better balance. But other than that, great job. I love how these areas are a little more vague, puts them, you know, a little outside of the... it's not confusing, you know, it's very clear. This as well, quite vague. I like that a lot. A bit more clarity in the shapes. Like if you're gonna commit to this is the chimney, get this, you know, negatively painted. Just don't be scared to define the edge of it, right? Some of it is snow maybe, but like don't be scared to define the edges. It's okay. Get those edges defined, right? Show them, show the edges, okay? See, this like decisiveness sometimes can help. And here it's also a bit indecisive. I don't know if that's the structure. Not really. You could go a little more decisive on some of these shapes. Other than that, great job. I can't compare it directly, again, because it's different time of year, different light and shadow, but great job other than that. Of course, windows, you know, all of these small details, with perspective and with time, it will improve. You did a fine job here, I think, with the windows. They're pretty, like, the distances are good. Let's see if I have any other specific notes here. Again, to me, the sky, like, it's a lot of saturation everywhere. My personal taste is this is saturated, this is saturated. This could be a little more muted, the sky area, right? Just as a small note. Let's see here. This is great. I like this a lot. So here, still, everything is exaggerated, but it works better because I feel like it's exaggerated in an identical way. So the color transitions, you actually got these bricks really nice here. Very underrated, kind of barely noticeable for maybe at first sight, but it's a nice little thing. So a lot of colors here, a lot of colors here, a lot of colors here. It's at least even in how you exaggerated them. So I like that a lot. And then there's the snow, and you know, that's kind of a unifying factor. Same for this one. This, again, just some areas could be a little less saturation would go a long way in creating depth and creating a bit more of an organization. I actually really like this. The tree is closer, so in theory, it should be a little sharper, but I actually appreciate how you took the effort to do wet and kind of separate it even from the rest. And, you know, again, you decide. Maybe this is closer, but the house is the focal point, and you go sharper on the house and smoother on the tree, you know? Totally up to you. I feel like the colors could use a bit more of a balancing act. Here's one thing you can try. I have a feeling you're using a lot of different hues, like different tubes of paint. Try doing 1 or 2 paintings with just 3 and limit how much you exaggerate to some areas, just to see how it works, right? I have a feeling you'll benefit from that. Let's see here. Sven, we're going to get to you soon. Sorry it took so long. Oh, there you are, Steve. Hope you're here. Yeah, I hope that helps. Thank you, Hillel, for being here too. No worries. You can watch the rest if you feel like it later. Oh, the sound is gone for a second. I don't know why. I'm not sure. But very happy this was helpful, Steve. Let me know if you have any follow-ups and we can, you know, clarify some things if you need to. But yeah, let's move on to the next batch. What do we have here? And great job overall, you know. I love this, and I love the dedication. You actually took more photos in these locations. And I do get the feeling of the House of the Tree has 1 red, 1 blue, and yellow, and 2 yellows. Oh, okay, yeah, I see. The yellow, even 1 yellow could throw off some elements. Is the 1 yellow the opaque one you put on the tree, like the dots? Let me know, because sometimes people tend to do that. They use a different yellow for the opaqueness or something like that. But yeah, great job overall, and it really feels like, I guess it's English, I'm not sure though, like the countryside, rural. It's beautiful. Sven. Okay, Sven, you have 6 paintings, so we'll go fast. But I have a good feel. For these. So, just to give you an idea, like these are some of the prettiest paintings I've seen recently. You're doing a really good job. I'm gonna go over them just so that everyone can see them. I don't really have much to say, honestly. I will try and give some individual feedback, but like really, really good job. Now, I believe, I don't remember if you said it. Oh yeah, you said it. So you said you like a specific artist that I was not familiar with. Opaque yellow, yeah, foreground transparent in background. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. English, yeah. So I definitely get the feeling of English, village, rural, beautiful. You were able to communicate that perfectly. So Sven, that artist you mentioned, I actually have a tab here open with their channel, Niaz Hanan. I wasn't familiar. I believe it was you, right? Confirm. I see the influences, and I wasn't even familiar with that artist. I follow them now. So thank you for that. You have great technique. You have good control, wet and wet. Like I see this all. You're doing a great job. Like even the way you use the colors, it works really well. I love the splashes. This is not an easy bunch of colors to match, even though it's quite saturated. That made me really impressed. And this is my painting, so that's really cool. So I can see your signature almost. This one is a little different from the rest, funny enough. On all of the rest, I can see your signature, and I like it a lot. I wonder, and because you're here, if you can let me know like what your goal is with watercolor. Where do you try and get, because it may influence the feedback I give you. I feel like some nuance in the paint is lost. I'm gonna give you a bit of a higher level advice because you seem to be quite advanced in many aspects. Some minor changes that could really improve the overall painting. So for example, you have so many strong colors here throughout, and it's such a like great composition that I think actually it could benefit from going like the water. Look at how more muted it is here. I think it would actually benefit from some mutedness, quote unquote, right? It seems also you've been using a lot of colors like straight out of the tube, meaning like a pure yellow, a pure blue, a pure red, whereas real life can be a little more nuanced than that. And I think because you're a bit more advanced, you could probably get that nuance in. So for example, even when looking at, let me show you. I'm trying just to get them closer together. So for example, even looking at this kind of a red here, this almost like a beet red. It's a very bright red, very tough to mix too. But look at the green next to it. It's more muted. Like finding these, like just a bit of this and then a bit more towards the beet kind of red. Maybe even brighter than what I did. Like it's a small nuance, but it's actually there, right? So you see the difference? And then this boat, which fascinates me, right? Because it's a white lighter one. Look at how much nuance there is here with how it reflects the rest of the boats. Let me make this a little more neutral because there's a lot of colors here. Look at how beautiful it reflects the blue and the orange and then the green here. Look at this. Where it reflects the sky, it's blue. Where it reflects the surrounding, it's kind of warm, right? Brown, red. This is yellow, probably light reflecting from here back to here, right? All of these beautiful nuances, challenge yourself to get them. I would, you know what fun thing you can do? Just take this boat and just paint that. Just this one. So you could get started and maybe just let me clear some canvas here. Don't worry, I'm not ruining your painting. I'm just clearing some canvas. I'm gonna do this. I just to show you what I mean by that. And even if you don't match the colors accurately, I want you to try it out. So, for example, you do the drawing. Like this, like that. Get the boat in. You know, there's another boat here. I'm doing this digitally, of course. It's gonna be challenging, but I just want to show you kind of what I mean, right? And then play with those nuances. So you have this kind of a gray here, right? I was almost close to getting it. Maybe even more towards the orange. And that's that, right? So it's something like this. maybe even a little more, a little stronger, something like that, right? And then you see this here, it's a little blue. So try and go for that, a little bit of blue. Maybe even feel free to exaggerate it, right? And then the water around is a darker blue, right? So go for that darker blue, like so. Make the boat pop. And then you have the highlight here, right? And you have the cast highlight there, right? And then around here, it's a little more green. So try and get that kind of a rusty, neutral kind of, you see, bit of a green. Look at this nice little orange there. Go a little even redder. See all of these beautiful colors. It feels to me like you're seeing the colors and then you use almost the closest pure color you have, right? So you look at this and you're like, oh, I have a Pyrrole Scarlet maybe that looks similar to that. Whereas I think you could aspire higher. And by the way, I used to do this a lot. It's like, I'm just going to use, whatever color I have out of the tube. And I think it's great because it allows you to simplify. It allows you to get nice juicy washes and shadows. Take it one step further, make it look less almost gimmicky. Go for the nuances you see. Even further, like push it even more. I think you can make a serious dent in your result that way. White objects like this boat are a great way to practice this because you have a lot of color nuances there. Try and get those nuances in. Don't even worry that much about the values. Even tell yourself it's okay if I mess up some of the values. I want you to work on this in particular. I think it'll do a lot of good. Let's see another one. Here you actually got the nuances a little better. Again, some of the values, the background could be a little darker to frame the boat a little better. But obviously you changed a lot, so don't have anything too, I think, important to say about that. Same here. Here I would say almost it depends on what you're trying to do. So if your goal is to, if this is the style you want, then I have no real, critique. But if you are trying to get a more nuanced, almost result, for example, I wouldn't, in this particular one, exaggerate the sand as much. I would actually keep it a little more kind of a light nuance. It will just push the realism a bit more. Same for these. Like, see, look at how brown that kind of a green is. You could still have it green, right? But maybe just a little more nuanced of a green, right? Again, it all depends on your result. Same for this blue. And you'll notice how just step by step it becomes a little more realistic, accurate, closer to real life, right? Again, this is why it will depend on the desired result. So I'm very hesitant to give this kind of feedback, but it is kind of what I can give you. Same here, right? This nuance. I love that you exaggerate. Again, I love that you exaggerate it, right? I feel like you could benefit from learning where and how to exaggerate a bit better. Love the small details. You connect shadows really well, so that's great. This one's tough, and I love the way you did it too. This one I wouldn't change a thing. It's really, really nice. Great job. So this is based on my video, which is fun. This really showcases the kind of difference in maybe taste, right? So I went for very muted colors, and you went for strong, punchy colors. If anything, you exaggerated the colors exactly how I like, right? But I think some tameness here and there could benefit it, right? If only for the experience of doing it that way. But yeah, great job, Sven. Really enjoy these. I don't know, maybe you're delivering post right now, so maybe you'll see it later. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. Good morning, Chris. How are you doing? Thank you for joining me here. This boat in particular, Sven, this stood out to me. Like, you can do so much with it. So much with the purples and beat reds. It just looks so good. Plumpy, where's the secret group for Patreon? By the way, everybody watching, for this little as 32 cents per day, you can help support this smashing. Thank you so much. Yeah, I do have a Patreon if you want to join. There aren't too many perks, honestly. It's just credit at the end of the video, but I think that's still nice. And yeah, I don't do any exclusive content because I just feel like, I tried before and I just want to give it all, put it all out there. Hey Daisy, how are you doing? So yeah, I just like to put all my content out there, and if you want to support it in any way, yeah. Sven, yeah, I hope that was helpful. Let me know. You're doing really good. You could just continue painting the way you do. I'm just, if you're seeking critiques, I'm trying to give you the things I think could help you move forward. Okay. But you're doing great, like really, really great. Yeah, it honestly reminds me of some of my work too, in a way. Awesome critique of this obviously talented and skilled artist really helps them to push themselves. Now I wish I had submitted some paintings next time. Just send them over. You see the email down below to send your critiques, liron@lironian.com. And back to Plumpy, thank you so much for the support. Vagabond, any advice for painting reflections? I always struggle so much and end up overworking them. It's almost the same as anything. You just pay attention to the shapes, trying to see what the shape, color, and edges are. That's pretty much it. It will depend on what reflection, what kind. In the big painting I did, there's the whole reflection on the side of it, and you see another car in it. I felt like I overworked it, but it ended up looking good. So sometimes when it feels like you're overworking, you're actually just getting it done. So don't worry too much about overwork. Do your best. I would say, if anything, if you want to really improve reflections, maybe you have a large scene and a small reflection in it, zoom in on the reflection, crop out the rest, just look at the reflection and try to paint it as you see it. A big challenge in reflections is it's hard to see them for what they are, which is usually a collection of abstract shapes. If you can do that, you'll actually be able to paint a reflection. It's not really that it's harder, it's just harder to see. But once you see it, it's not as hard. So just crop out the little window through the scene where the reflection is, very zoomed in, and try to paint it one-to-one. See how it goes. Because the entire scene and the context can be confusing. Let's see here. Yeah, great art, Steve. Really great. It ain't easy putting your work out there, that's definitely. Let's see here. Bahir. Yeah, I mean, people can send as many as they want. I'll just have to go fast sometimes. Daiji, your generosity in sharing your knowledge is always greatly appreciated. Yeah, thank you. It is my pleasure. It's working. Like, people enjoy it. People join the channel. That's really fun. Some people, sometimes they are very scared to submit their paintings, and then they're shocked at how everyone is telling them their paintings are beautiful. Like, some people are unaware of how good their work actually is. So if that's you, just know, like, maybe you're much better than you think. Okay, so let's do Tala. Tala R sent me 2 paintings. And yeah, okay, 1, 2. So there's a lot that you can go to from here. I think one of the main things I notice is how you work your colors. Your drawings, you're choosing scenes that are very nice, that have a nice quality to them when it comes to the drawing. So there are a lot of horizontals, a lot of verticals, simple shapes. I love that. I think your colors could use some work. I get the same feel of like using a bunch of different colors that don't necessarily relate enough to one another. So this is a very phthalo kind of blue. This is a very French ultramarine. I don't see the reference, so it's hard for me to say specifics. But here's something interesting that you did that works really well. Oopsie doopsie. This section, everything here is beautiful. You got a very nice nuance of this kind of a brown orange and this blue. Not kind of blue-gray, right? And then it breaks a bit with those greens. So let me show you something interesting. I'm going to choose the same blue, bluish green, and let's see, there's actually quite a lot of nuance there. But let's see if I can go very light here. I'm just curious to see something. I'm going to just paint all over it. So you'll have to forgive me. I want to see, so let's say I simplify the entire thing so that even the sky, right? We'll do some fun experimentation. And then the mountains are going to be just a bit of a darker version of that. Right? And then the green, and maybe let's push it a bit more towards, no, a bit more colorful, rather. Like this. Can I get away with a bit of blue? Yes, I can. And then for the green, we'll go with just a bit of a more muted green, right? And obviously, I'm just playing around here, but see, like this. Look at how much, like the colors are a little cleaner, right? I know I painted all over it, but here they're not related enough, and I almost related them in a way. Now I did make a big mess here, but I'm just going. I want to show you how like a section of your painting has perfect colors. I love this. So I think where you could work a bit on is in terms of colors. I love your technique when it comes to like you let this flow together, and I recognize this way of letting the different colors flow together. So your technique is on point. Your drawing is great. The one thing I would work on is your color selection. Maybe some of the flow in some of these farther washes, like some balance is necessary. So you have a lot of shapes here. You have a lot of shapes here. You have a lot of shapes here. Some of these shapes aren't unnecessary. So like, for example, this should be one shape. This should be one shape. Maybe some wet and wet, you know, but send it to the background, right? Send it to the background. This transition here from this blue to that light blue feels maybe like pick one and stick to it and give it a try. Again, a lot of the color is so subjective, so I'm very careful, but I feel like some of the harmony breaks a bit. So that's what I would work on. I would actually take some resources, mental resources, from working on all of these different shapes and devote them to this tree and get something that's a little more even nuanced in the smaller branches. Just get a few, not all of them, because I like some simplicity, but you know, some of these, get them to be even more visible. See what I mean? Just a bit of a better balance of detail, as opposed to the background that could be a little emptier. Now, one more thing is, a lot of these are quite strong. Sometimes just muting them is enough. Like the color you're using, it's okay to use that color, just have it a little more balanced out. So one thing I would try is stick to a 3-color palette for an experiment. Just use, you know, one red, one blue, one yellow. And try to always have the mentality of no matter what color I use, it's always going to be 2/3 the color and the rest is going to be a mix of the others. So when you reach out to green, instead of going like this green, go for this green. Instead of going for this yellow, go for that yellow. See how these two together work a little better, in my opinion, than these two. Again, it's a bit subjective, but that's my takeaway. This red, go for this kind of a nuanced red. Once you're able to do that, then you're able to pick one. Let's say you want the trunk to be really bright, and you go for a strong color there, see? And it will work out, it will communicate, I think, a little better, okay? When we're reaching to a very pure, clean, saturated color, it's very easy to break the harmony. So that's what I would say for you. I think the same advice goes for the other one, but I did notice for this one, yeah. So this I like a lot, actually, the sky and the blue. It's almost like, it's so funny. It's so funny. It's almost like if I focus on just this, you got a perfect harmony. I really like that. These greens kind of break it. So I would actually take a note out of this specific, funny enough, it's a good example. This painting by Luca, just look at the greens here, a bit more nuanced, as opposed to a very unified, just artificial green, right? Get some nuances going, right? So more towards the, and doing a minimal palette will help, right? So more towards the bit of yellowy, and a bit of kind of cool, and a bit of, all of these will help you a lot. One note I did have for technique is, right, you're using these scratches with a credit card or something like that. That's great. I like that a lot. Just have a mental note for the future where if you observe that sometimes these branches are actually darker. So where you should go dark, the credit card ends up making a light mark. So always think about what you want the result to be, and let technique guide you towards that. So if you want the result to be lighter, cool, go with the credit card. But if you want it to be darker, watch out, because a lot of people just use the same technique and then they're surprised they don't get the look thereafter. Okay? That would make sense. So this is it. With that, we're done. So 2 hours. I knew that that's a lot of paintings. How many did we go over? Let's hear quite a few of these. I have here 31 paintings. That's a lot. It's been fun, and I want to thank everyone who submitted one, because it takes a lot of courage. Don't be scared. Even if you feel like you painted one painting, you have 1 day's worth of experience, I would still be happy to see your paintings and give you some kind of a nudge in the right direction. A lot of it, again, I try to be very nuanced, because a lot of it is subjective. A lot of it is a matter of taste. A lot of it is just personal preference, and I want you to first paint for yourself. But these are a couple of pointers that I think will help most of the people that send them here. So let's look at some of the comments here. Del Chani, hey Liron, first time here. I also struggle with painting reflections in water. Thanks for the tips. You got it. I'll do another video on reflections soon. Somewhere up there. Dang, I woke up late. No worries. Thank you for being here. This is where it almost is going to end in a couple of minutes, but feel free to watch back. Limited color palettes work so well, but it's hard to resist all the interesting stuff in the paint. Yeah, that's true. That's true. One thing you can do if you're having just a hard time, kind of you want to try out a bunch of colors, just choose 2 colors that are crazy and work with just these 2 on a painting, and then another painting, work on other 2 colors. That way you get to try out a lot of different colors in a more contained space. Mark Foley, who I always reference, has a lot of paintings with seemingly crazy colors, but they're very few. There's 2 or 3 of them. So yeah, I agree. I think the purple-ish shade doesn't belong. Yeah, sometimes that's the issue. No, your opinion counts. One color sometimes break a painting's harmony. Patty, can't wait to send a picture. Love that you're honest with your critiquing. Yeah, definitely, my pleasure. Ibzonic, I submitted mine. Awesome. We'll get to it in a future one. Debdut, hi everyone. I'm new to acrylics. So this is watercolor. I wanted to ask everyone whether you use retarder or not, and if you do, does it really increase? Yeah, I have no idea about that. I know that people use all sorts of things to mix in there, but I'm not too familiar. Yeah, the water was really nice in that last one, right? I think you referred to this one. Will there be a VOD of the... Yeah, the live stream is going to stay on the channel, don't worry. Thank you for being here. CE, whoa, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that altogether. I can't believe I missed it. Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you, John. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mom. I'm just going to read Mom, even though the username is much longer. Oh, thank you, Freebird. I just saw it. What a cool idea. Thank you so much. And feel free to send your paintings. And even if it's not watercolor, I'll do my best. If it's digital, acrylics, whatever, I'm happy to see it. Alessandro, hope to review yours next time. Michael just came in. Oh, man. Yeah. Ali must that was a good stream. Thank you all very, very much. I do appreciate it. If you can take a moment to like the video, that'll be great. Don't be shy. Send me your paintings. I'm happy to look at all of them, and we've all been there. I should do a live stream where I show you live some of my first paintings. I think it'll be fun. That's an idea I just popped into my mind, because I have a lot of paintings I still never shown. And you'll see, it was the first months and I didn't know anything. I had a few lucky breaks, but a lot of them were just very inexperienced. And I think you'll enjoy them. I do watercolor. I fail most of them. That's the beginning. I remember there was a time, thank you, Pedro, there was a time where all of my paintings, I would be like fail, fail, fail. And then it'll be like, oh, I get a successful one once every 10 paintings. And then slowly but surely it's like, oh, like 1 out of 5 is good. 1 out of 4 is good. 1 out of 3 is good. And then at some point it's like, oh, I actually like each and every one of them in a different way. And that's how you grow. And it just happens that way, you know. At the beginning, everything feels like a failure, but it's just part of learning. I think learning a new skill is very humbling. Right now, I'm with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I did every lesson. Something is hurting afterwards, and I'm learning a lot. Though it's very humbling. And at the beginning, you don't know nothing. You don't know what you don't know. It's just how it goes. So keep painting. You'll get there. Lisa, thank you so much for this. Very inspiring. When is the deadline for sending the pictures? I'm gonna do one probably in 2 more weeks. So anytime, like I usually compile everything a few days before the live stream, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 days before. So try and get it done, sent in a week and a half. And if not, it'll be in the next one. I just save them all and then do them. I will have to start deleting emails though, because I have tons of. I don't have much space in the inbox because people send a lot of photos. It's one of these webmail weird ones. Thank you, Patty. Yeah, hit the like button if you can. Next live stream, probably next week, same time, Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, but I may skip it because it's my week off. I may do a video instead. In 2 weeks, for sure, there should be a live stream. But my live streams are always the same. It's Thursday. Be sure to follow on Instagram. I share the link in the story, and I try and share it here too. At least the day before you get to go to the channel and see the live stream there in the front page. I hope to see you in the next one, Marco. What made you choose Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu over Sambo? I never heard of Sambo, I think, so that's why. I just kept hearing about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from a lot of the people I listen to, podcasts-wise and so on. Like Joe Rogan and Jocko Willink and a bunch of other people. Just everyone mentions it. Actually, it was Joe Rogan's podcast with Mark Zuckerberg, where Mark's like, yeah, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's like, you know, in his robotic self, like, he really enjoys it. So this is why. I'm not scared of failing. I'm scared of trying, says Ellie. Or maybe of not trying. That's what you should be scared of. Freebird, Liron, is your name French? I want to pronounce it French. Yeah, it has a bit of a French feel. It's just a Hebrew name, so Liron. It means I'm happy in Hebrew. Li is basically to me, and Ron is happiness. Or song, it could mean, I think, too. But yeah. Christine, thank you so much. We'll catch you in the next one, either next week or in 2 weeks, and definitely will be videos coming out till then, so thank you so much, and I will talk to you again real soon. Keep painting, you can do this, you'll keep growing, trust me, just keep doing it, you'll get better. But yeah, Hannah, I recently got into gouache, I love it. Do you have any experience? Nothing with gouache, but maybe I will in the future. Until next time, take care.